there. Welcome. Happy Thursday, everybody. Welcome to Business One. Lovely to see you. The newcomers and all our regulars, happy days for you. It's getting better out there. The sun is almost coming out. We can almost go inside instead of freezing outside with a cold glass or something. So it's all good. It's all getting better. Welcome. We've got a fabulous guest that we're going to introduce later, Gill McKay, who's all things neuroscience. So tune in, join in the chat. And we're waiting for Sam. Well, our other is blonde, but we don't know where she is at the moment. So hopefully she's away. She's got a new puppy and she's got building works going on. It's a bit chaotic there. So let's go around the room and see how your week's been. How are you, Kim?
Yeah, good, thank you. It's been a good week. It's been nice. We've been told every day. I keep looking at the weather forecast, and it's going to pitch it down every day. And yet we've been really fortunate. I've managed to walk my little girl to nursery every day. I'm on a bit of a fit mind, fit body, trying to get rid of the lockdown lumber, if I'm really honest. So we've kind of been walking to nursery and managing to navigate the storms, and it does make you feel better, doesn't it, to get that bit of fresh air in the morning and that thinking time. And I've been really decadent. I've listened to an audiobook every single day, so I feel like I'm really actually maximizing my opportunity to level up, I think.
That's brilliant. You know, I was listening to a program about the mind and doing one thing to improve the mind. And if you exercise and listen to something, you're doubling up your brain and your body's functioning. Yeah.
I think you're certainly doing something good.
Yes. So not just going to the gym, but listening to something or watching something or reading something on a screen while you're exercising is a double whammy. Good stuff. Oh, yeah, well done. Penny, how's your week been?
It's been good, actually. I mean, you know, usual some challenges along the way, and I'm saying I'll talk about it at the end. Actually, I went to an acupuncturist to try and just keep some of my at bay. But do you know something I'm hearing a lot about? Literally, I mean, it's in my world, but it's also in all the worlds of my clients. Is this subject of lead generation, and that's something that I'm really been focusing on a lot this week for people. Because we're stifled, we can't, you know, GDPR has really stifled a lot of people. All the Facebook, LinkedIn are squeezing things to death. And I learned from Thomas during the pandemic, I can't remember exact statistic, but Google's in Q1 last year compared to Q1 this year, Google have gone up by £10 billion in a quarter. And that's purely trying to do pay-per-click and desperately trying to find how they can find customers. And so, you know, that's been a really, oh, there's Sam. That's been a really big thing that I'm sort of researching into. But, you know, what I really believe, and I constantly bang on about it, is this power of, I've just got to go know Gill, and I'm sure I'm going to become a client of Gill's, the power of conversation in small communities like this or bigger, you know, communities that you can trust, the referrals that you can get. And I interviewed a guy called John Keel this week, and he talked about, you know, the principles of life remain the same. It's just the techniques change. And I think if we just get back to some of the principles of deep conversation to get lead gen going, so that's where I've been really thinking.
It's interesting. I mean, I've been looking into the hedonic treadmill, which I'm sure Gill knows about, which is when we have something that upsets us, like the last year, we are up here and down there, and then we go back to our default. So we're all finding our hedonic treadmill again, which is, you know, finding that space amid the kind of choppy waters again. I think that's why some of us are up and some of us are kind of still drifting around a little bit.
Yeah, God, I have low energy moments. Even on this show, you know, I'll come on and you'll notice my energy's low, and then, you know,
yeah,
it's about accepting that, isn't it?
Welcome, Sam. We were about to send out a search party. You've got a puppy, you've got building works. What's happening?
I'm so sorry, lovelies. Yeah, we've got a slight gas issue that I was just quickly sorting. So yeah, apologies.
Eat something bad last night.
I'm sorry.
Eat something bad. So do you want to briefly say how your week's been, Sam?
My week's been great, thank you very much. Obviously, it was a slow week, slow starting because of the bank holiday. I've been to the salon, so that made me feel so much better and more human. Did a bit of retail therapy, which I'm not a shopper. That's not something that normally floats my boat, but it was quite nice just to do a bit of shopping. But yeah, no, my week's been great. I find my clients are really positive right now. It's a real sense of, come on, let's go and achieve.
Oh.
Yeah, really great.
That's really good. I'm really glad, because some people are hitting the wall of kind of what I think of sort of a long COVID sense of ennui. It's going on and on and on, and we still can't get back out there. But some people are raring to go on the B of the bang, as it were. And someone who I know is always raring to go. See this effortless segue I'm doing now on the B of the bang is Gill McKay.
Wow.
On the G of the Gill, Gill is a powerhouse of all things neuroscience. She is the co-founder of My Brain International and design, I'm just reading your bio here, of the neurometric profiling instrument, MIND. Gill helps coaches, which she does, trainers, HR and business professionals to amplify their results through using neuroscience in their work. And this book is the Bible, which Gill wrote, best-selling book, which is the handbook, Brain Smart Insights for Coaches. I recommend this to all of my student coaches. It is absolutely awesome. And she's a best-selling author now, Gill. So welcome to Business Blondes. Fantastic to have you here. So many wonderful, interesting things to talk about. But tell us exactly how you got into the world of neuroscience and how My Brain International came about. What's your background? How did you get there?
So, well, first of all, thank you for welcoming me so warmly and bigging me up. I love it. And effortless segue, fantastic. So I've been in the learning and development world in its broadest sense for more than 30 years. I kind of landed, I was lucky to land in that career, and I've absolutely loved it. You know, I'm all about that, enabling other people to be the best that they can be. I know, broadly speaking, we're all in that same arena. And then within a corporate role, I was running a leadership academy about 25 years ago, and I was working with my opposite number in America, and he was really interested in the brain. So I absolutely, hail him for getting me involved in this whole area of neuroscience. And I just realized that it gave people a different perspective, a different frame, an additive frame, if you like, on their learning when we were operating in the Leadership Academy and in any other development arena, whether it was in group situations or one-to-one, to help people to understand what was actually going on at a brain level, help them to start to understand that, oh yes, change is actually possible. And of course, 25 years ago, we didn't know what we know now. So it was exciting then, and it's even more exciting now. So My Brain International came out when I left the corporate world, and that was precipitated by my third child. It was just one of those, got to leave the corporate world, got to start my own stuff. Originally started my own consultancy, my own training development consultancy, but then met somebody from my previous corporate job again. And we reunited. We very much have the same aspect, same perspective. Now, he's a sales guy. He was a bigwig board member sales guy in an insurer. And he brought me in to do some training about stepping into your client's brain. The rest is history. We joined together, and we are all about offering training to help people in a wide variety of disciplines, but predominantly the development arena, coaches and trainers, how to use neuroscience to help your clients get even better results. Ooh, can't hear you there, Caroline.
It's always one, isn't there? Sorry, it's always me.
It's usually me.
I was saying Penny's itching to ask so many questions about this fascinating subject, because isn't it funny, like the brain is now fashionable. What was it before then? So kind of add on to our body, and yet suddenly suddenly everyone's talking about the brain and wanting to know what is really going on in there, how we can make these changes, what happens to the brain when we make these changes, because otherwise everything's just like a band-aid over issues in our life. What you want to make is real systemic change. So, and how does that happen? So anyone got any questions for Gill about this intoxicating, fabulous subject?
Yeah, well, it really is. And Gill, we had 15 minutes beforehand, and I sort of fell in love with you in that time, because I'm sort of, oh God, why don't you all go away and let me just deal with myself? So listen, I've been hideously independent all my life. Didn't have a coach, didn't go anywhere, didn't ask people for help, didn't ask friends for help, just as a child, didn't have my mum and dad help me. I used to sit and solve problems on my bed myself. Okay, so this is an independence that is also such a negative aspect to myself. And I finally, in 2018, I decided I will go to a psychologist. I had a frightening experience that meant I needed to. So what I really needed sitting in that room is for them to help me believe the brain, really help me understand what's going on. That's why, I suppose that's why it's become fashionable, is it? People more and more curious about it, because we really want to know we want to uncover it all, don't we?
I think we do. And, fantastic that you went and wanted to talk it out. So I think there's many factors at play here. The brain neuroscience, neuro nonsense as well, where stuff's distorted. It's really transporting into our news feeds, isn't it? It's there, it's available. There's so much more available in the press. But a lot of that is because due to the advent of technology, we no longer have to cut up or dead brains or look at really, really extreme neurological patients to get any information. Technology has allowed us to marry up with the work of psychologists to take a look at the almost, excuse my language, the normal functioning human brain in day-to-day activities. So there's more information available about day-to-day activities, how we are when we're in a typical argument, emotional crisis, how we are when we're going to the supermarket, how we are when you were talking before about lead generating, so what happens in that neuro selling arena, how we are when we're operating with a client. So many different scenarios we're now able to understand a little bit more. So I think that information is more accessible and people are beginning to realize, oh, this could be useful. Now, having said that, I will wave a little bit of a red flag. Fashion is fashion, and fashion can fade. And it's very topical, neuroscience. And I do think that there's a lot of neuro nonsense around as well. There's a lot of distortion, as there will be in any fashionable topic. So we will pick up certain publications, or in our newsfeed, we might read that there's been this wonderful piece of singular research that therefore tells us if we take this magic pill, we will no longer experience this trauma, or we will lose magically 40 pounds before the end of the season. There is a lot of distortion, but I think there's enough out there to engender curiosity, and I think people realize that it's a really interesting area, because after all, don't we all intuitively want to know what makes us tick? Surely there's nothing more exciting than understanding a bit more about that.
Jill, do you remember a while ago when we could go to a nightclub? We did a talk in Mayfair in a nightclub where there was probably 100 under 25s in there.
That's right.
And the level of interest that the younger generation have in emotions, in personal development, how the brain works. I have great hope for the future, because these are young people are coming up and they're not just taking things as read. They want to change things and they want to find out what's going on inside.
Yes,
I know Sam's very interested in that. The younger generation coming up with their lovely new perspectives on life.
I think you're right, and I think whenever I work with a client and we talk, I use personality profiling software with all of my clients, and whenever I do that session, they are just poised in hanging on to every word, because it's fascinating. People are fascinated by other people, aren't they? And we all are. Learning how what makes each individual tick and trigger and drives and all of that. I think I find fascinating, and I know, as I say, just by having that one session on how to, it's a communication tool, what I use, but because it's talking about people and their brain and their different personality types, people find it so fascinating. And I think you're right, Caroline, the younger generation are far more in tune with emotional intelligence than the older generation. Far more in tune with that.
They're less accepting, aren't they? I look at my father, who's 93. I can't believe how he accepts being unhappy. But he just it's that generation. They didn't do that, and he's been through so many traumas, but he would never consider going and getting help. He has it all inside him. But I'm not accepting of it. I've got a very damaged brain. 11 years of quite chronic stress. My brain's damaged, and I know that I am now always going to be triggered by certain things. But then then I'll go to someone and I'll help get somebody, like I would if I went to a physiotherapist with a leg that was damaged. I have to go and get myself sorted. What can I ask you? What are the principles of Stuck, the book?
The principles behind Stuck, I wanted to share my coaching stories. So it's a little bit of a brain, thank you so much, a little bit of a brain primer. So the first part is, this is what's going on at in your brain at a very high helicopter view. You know, it's not an autopsy neuroscientist definition. But part two is where I wanted to share different coaching stories from genuine coaching clients who came to me for different presenting issues, and how I use neuroscience in the conversation to help unstick them, to help them progress in some way. So there's a chapter around motivation, there's a chapter around negative feelings, something around stress, there's one about loneliness. It's still actually really, you know, comes to me when I think about that chapter and that particular client. It was very gracious of them to allow me to share their stories. But all I wanted to do was to help encourage other coaches to understand that, you know, you don't have to be a Harvard educated or Stanford educated master's PhD level postdoctorate neuroscientist to be able to use this readily available stuff in business. That's one of the things we do in our business, is we curate what is coming out of all these amazing institutions and sift and sort what could be useful for translation into the business world. So the premise of Stuck is to enable coaches to just see that they can use this great stuff that's out there and becoming more and more accessible in their world and in the world at large.
Kim, you work as a leadership coach. Are you seeing this show up in what you do?
Yeah, and it's fascinating, Jill. I could chat to you literally all day, because I think obviously at our base, you know, human beings want to be listened to, they want to be understood, and they want to be respected. And the more that we can actually communicate better, to listen, to understand. I mean, I've just literally qualified to be a face whisperer. So reading the micro expressions, which can last 1/25th of a second, but obviously the way we feel acts 24% faster than the way we think. So even if we're trying to hide our feelings, actually we can't, because our feelings interact so much quicker. So understanding all of these and how the brain works, to be able to ask better questions and to really demonstrate that listening is so vital, isn't it, to helping people become the best that they can be. Would you agree?
I 100% agree with that. And something, I mean, I'm fascinated with what you're qualifying in, how amazing. And what you say is so pertinent. It's one of the things that I think really helps people become unstuck, when they understand that in every decision, the information will flood through your emotional segments of your brain before it gets to the rational parts of your brain. If we're talking regions, you know, that actually it almost gives people permission to start talking about their emotions. You know, 80% of the neurons, we believe, you know, everything changes all the time in neuroscience, but a big number of neurons operate in our waking moments in the more emotional regions of the brain, and they're accessed faster, and it really matters. And I think, going back to what Sam was saying as well about that whole people understanding themselves, and younger people being more savvy perhaps, or more demanding maybe of awareness. I wish we taught this stuff in schools. I really do. I wish we would. You know, what's stopping us doing that? Because it's, I think, the gift of awareness and the gift of these nuggets of knowledge, it's so high, isn't it? It brings people great traction in their lives, and something different to think about as they progress and make choices and decisions for themselves.
I completely agree. And we're born with it, aren't we? You know, I mean, my poor little girl, bless her, she's 4.5, and she became my absolute study through my training, because I just analysed her face, bless her little heart. Every time she was doing anything, I was like, this is the emotion you're showing, even if you're telling mummy it's something else entirely. Because we're born with these things, then we learn how to do something different. But if we taught them this, then, you know, imagine how effective they'd be at communicating and understanding and empathizing, and maybe that might help us with the challenges we've got in diversity and inclusion.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with all of that. I think that's so interesting. And if we think about learning, and back to, you know, your little girl's age and even younger, we learn through mimicry. You know, we copy people, we learn. And so having those really positive role models and those messages, absolutely, from a really young age, they would help us to grow into a perhaps a more authentic, more grounded at the same time person with that broader perspective. Yeah, I think we're very much talking the same language. Absolutely.
And Jill, can I ask, you've got your book, how do people access you? Because I want you in my pocket.
So if you want me in your pocket, how do people come to me? So
yeah, how do people, what's the process of getting your knowledge and having help from you?
Okay, so there's several ways to do that. So obviously the book, and I'm also one of the things that I really have learned over the last few years is, I think for a while I really was the world's biggest secret. So I show up every day on LinkedIn. So I open a lot of conversations on LinkedIn. That has been a wonderful platform to connect with more people as well. But connect with me via email, and we can talk about potentially one-to-one coaching or programs.
So you do one-to-one coaching, and then you do programs.
One-to-one coaching, and then we have an applied neuroscience qualification, which latterly, note my language, was 3 days face-to-face in a room with real live people, but we are bringing that online. So we qualify people in how to use neuroscience in coaching conversations, in training interventions, and we have, interested in what Sam was saying before, we have this neurometric tool called Mind. So we also use profiling. Ours is underpinned by neuroscience research. It plays in exactly the same space as yours will, Sam, and all the others that we all know, but ours is underpinned by neuroscience and helps people to understand their preferences, so where they are most likely to go to reach a conclusion, to come to a decision or make an interpretation when information streams into their nervous system. So as we all know, some of us have a preference for being more analytical, some of us have a preference for being more naturally empathetic and trying things on for size and more values based. Others of us really need the detail, otherwise we get stress. Others of us just like to play, and I imagine, Kim, that your little girl just likes to play. If I can give you anything, keep her playing. We all need to play, and we lose that so often. So what our instrument does, and our training therefore does, is it enables our coaches to be able to use our instrument. But what it does is it gives people a language for their preferences and therefore their strengths, and it gives them, this is a big thing to say, but permission to be them.
I also, that's brilliant, Jill. You really summed it up beautifully. But also, I think it gives them hope. Because when we work as coaches helping our clients change, a lot of people say, well, that's how I am. This is how it is. This is how I've always been. And you say, well, actually, I've got some really good news for you. In 60 to 90 days, we can rewire some of this. And it isn't how it is, and it isn't going to be stuck, which is what your book is called, of course. But it's like, that is the hope that you can give people. It may seem like this is who I am and how I am, and I can't change, but you can, and positively and for the better. And neuroscience talks you through those steps to creating those change in a really realistic and understandable way.
Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah, absolutely. Yes, Penny, sorry.
I was going to say, I love that, Caroline, because all the time we hear, don't we, it's what it is. And I hate that expression with a vengeance, because it doesn't have to be. And that just means that you're accepting what you're given. And like you say, Caroline, we can reprogram, we can think differently, we can behave differently, we can be somebody else. That doesn't mean we're disingenuous, but we can be somebody else. We don't have to accept, so that expression, oh, it is what it is, that's an excuse for me. That just lets it all off the hook.
Or that's how I am and I can't change. Well, you can change if you want to. Yeah. Obviously, we only work with clients who want to change and believe that they can. But working with coaches, it's such a lovely, reassuring message that this is how the brain works and this is how coaching works, helping people to change their lives, their habits, and even their personalities if they want to.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think I agree with everything you say. And I think one of the things that neuroscience gives to clients with coaches is the fact that they can understand that at a physiological level, someday it's not going to be all that effort that it is up front, because we will start to carve out neural pathways for our new habits. We'll start to reward ourselves differently through repetition and practice, and then we'll seek and anticipate a different reward. at the beginning, creating change is a little bit harder. Well, we all know that. If we were starting a running regime, go straight for the marathon. We wouldn't think we were going to drop a stone in a week. We know it's more effort, but then we get into a pattern. The brain loves patterns. So changing habits is about laying down new patterns at the beginning, more deliberately and consciously, and then all of a sudden you'll find that actually that was a little bit easier. Yeah.
So that's the hope you give people, that stick with it.
Lovely.
So you mentioned earlier that you said step into your client's brain. Is that a course you do? Is that
it's not a specific course that we do yet. However, we have actually run some customized programs for some clients in the sales arena, where they're wanting their sales guys to be able to literally step into their client's world and start to look outside. You'd think the salespeople would do it intuitively, yeah, but to look outside and therefore understand that their services are not about them. Their services are around their clients.
Yeah,
so, yeah, absolutely. So we've worked with some people who have worked in sales training to help them with that program. But you've given me an idea there, Penny. Thank you.
I can see my clients really benefiting from that. I really like it. Yeah.
Well, unfortunately, we're almost out of time. But what we like to do, Gill, as we go around the room at the end, is maybe share a little tip. Something that you could do today or to think about in the next few days to sort of help yourself, or I don't know, just share a bit of best practice or a bit of hope for our listeners. So let's go to Kim first. What have you got, a little tip for us or a little meme this week, Kim?
Yeah, I guess mine is to listen to understand. I think too often we listen to interject and we miss out on an opportunity to really learn something. So suspend your own voice and just listen.
Love that. Suspend your own voice and listen, because listening is an act of love. Sam?
I love that, Kim. Yeah, I really do. I think I'm going to go with the positive note that I started on. And I just think that, just be aware of who's around you. And now is the time. If you're having that glimpse of positivity, don't let that be sucked out with negativity by a neg ferret, as I call them, someone that's going to come and hoover all that positivity out of you. So surround yourself with positive people. Who's your courage? Who's your influencer? Who's your inspiration? Who's your challenger? Who's your corrector? But find those roles around your support network and really tap into them right now.
I know we've got a lot of them in the room right now, Sam. Thank you. Penny?
Well, I mentioned earlier that I went to an acupuncturist yesterday and he told me to be much sillier. And we ended up getting onto the subject of how everybody's so focused on performance in every area of their life. And he said that he went out for a gentle bike ride with a friend, but the friend arrived with Leica and serious helmet and his Strava on his thing. And he said, we've got to get here by here. And he said, I just think that so many of my clients that are coming to me, they're just structuring every area of their life around performing and achieving. And so I would say just think about that for yourself and maybe have an area of your life where you're just a bit silly. That's what I'm doing now. Just thought, making silly.
You're talking my language there. I always keep a tube of bubbles in my car. So if I'm in a traffic jam and everyone's sitting there like this, I wind the window down and blow bubbles out the window. It always gets someone laughing. Gill, have you got a little tip for us?
Yeah, I was thinking about this because I knew this was coming. I've watched your program. For me, it's all about showing up as the real you. I think that so matters in this world. This world is full of this new word, comparisonitis. Well, we're not anybody else. Like, I can hear my mum's words in my head. Be yourself, because everyone else is taken. Now, I've subsequently found that on the internet it's being attributed to Einstein. Mum never admitted that whether it is Einstein or not, we'll never know. But I can hear my mum saying, be yourself, because everyone else is taken.
I love that. My simple tip is go to Poundland, six tubes of bubbles, £1. What price happiness and happiness. So I'll go over to Kim to wind up today's fabulous Business Blondes. Thank you, Kim.
Oh, bless you. Thank you. Gill, it's been an absolute delight. We could chat to you all day. And I think you're right. We've just got to go out there and have a little bit more fun. And it's amazing what that does to uplift us. So if you would like to join us and be in Gill's chair, then please do get in touch with us at www.businessblondes.tv. And in the interim, take care, stay safe, have fun. Go and get some bubbles. Till next time.